They might be self-aware.
Okay, Gary here, recording from the payphone outside of Chevron where someone's definitely doing something illegal in the bathroom based on the sounds. Today on They Might Be Self-Aware, the guys talk about how Stephen Wolfram mathematically proved AI can't replace humans. Something about things being computationally unreducible, which I think means unpredictable, like whether my landlord's gonna buy that I mailed the rent check. They debate company moats. Meanwhile, I'm standing in what I think is a moat of mountain goo, and Daniel actually sounds hopeful about the future, which, I don't know, maybe you have to make a certain amount per episode to feel that way. Anyway, Wolfram's probably right. They'll never replace me because their models would refuse to sound this desperate. Enjoy the show!
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
I'll give you another one. Aliens invade. It could happen. There's all sorts of crazy disclosure things. Aliens have invaded and they are now taking over parts of the world. Do we think that the AI on its own would just adapt and be able to handle the situation? Or is this a time where they're going to have to say, hey, humans, would you mind coming over here for a minute? Could we just have a quick chat about things? Because our whole basis of what we built ourselves on was that these countries would still exist. They wouldn't just disappear one day. We didn't think that was really possible. And we didn't really think that aliens could invade and take over. And could you just maybe help us out here? Linda, helping hand.
They might be self-aware.
Inside the reckless race to conquer reality with AI, it must be. They might be self-aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the Conqueror himself.
Aw, shucks. It's me, Daniel Bishop. I don't know about Conqueror.
Daniel, are you trying to replace humanity with AI? This is a pointed question. I want a serious answer.
Yeah, sure.
Really? Actually?
I don't know. What do you mean by replace humanity with AI? Do you mean kill all humans and just have a bunch of, it's the Matrix movie where it's a bunch of, huge towering robots going over a wasted landscape? No, of course not. I want we talked about this last episode. I want the utopia where humans are like, hey, AI, do all my work for me. And it's like, yeah, man, I got you. I already did it. Go back to watching reality TV. And then the robots go to unlocking the secrets of the hidden universe because they're interested in science and all the humans forgot about it because they were given enough reality TV.
I think what most people mean when they say replacing humanity, it's about making humans optional in essentially everything. The humans can choose to participate, but they no longer need to participate in humanity, and that it essentially suggests that all of humanity can be automated.
Again, do you mean jobs? Is it jobs that you're looking at? Is this through the lens of capitalism? We have to do job to make money to make world keep happening. If so, yeah, sure. Automate the whole damn thing.
Well, I think it's more than that. I mean, it's to suggest that, it depends on your definition of job, but if we define job as anything that human can do, it's work, it's force equals mass times acceleration, any task that a human may need to do can be automated away, and that effectively society can run on its own. Again, without humans become optional in everything. Is that possible? And is that what your real motives are here, Daniel?
You're describing AGI, right? That's artificial general intelligence, and that's embodied artificial general intelligence.
EGI and AGI.
Yeah, we have robots that are walking around and this is a robot wearing flannel in Canada with a big saw and another robot. It's one of those long 2-person saws that you see from the cartoons. It's robot lumberjacks. It's robot crab fishermen. And they still look like people. Of course they do. And we'll still have the crab fishermen. I don't remember, Dangerous Catches, whatever the hell it's called. The show of people on the crab fisher boats. And they still have fun accents. and they still have all the drama, but it's robots. Like, are you describing it's robot painters, and it's also like a nude robot that's sitting there for like being the model for people to paint, but so this is the like, I guess it's a literal perversion of what is currently going on. You have like a robot with an exposed chassis, and then there's a bunch of other robots who are like painting that robot to like get practice doing that, but they're all doing it kind of like dot matrix printer style, just like left to right in lines. What do you mean? I feel like you're getting at something. Usually you're getting at something, but like, yes, over the last couple of years, we've seen music and art and like, oh, we kind of thought the robots would have done this one last. They decide, oh, we did that first. Oh dear. And yes, there's all of the problems that come along with that. As someone who has aphantasia, where I don't have any like internal visual anything going on, for those not in the know, like that's what it's like. I do dream with like pictures, but I don't. Oh, imagine a field. I don't. There's just nothing. I find these kinds of tools really useful. Like, hey, Nano Banana Pro from Terminal. Like, here's this thing. Describe. Picture. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I guess that is what that would look like. Neat. You could hire an artist who's sitting around constantly waiting for you to be like, what would it look like if there was a monkey with a cool hat? Okay, I'll draw that for you. Okay, art, math. We're starting to see like math theorems and whatever being proven by AI. Coding. We've talked plenty about coding on this podcast. I'm midway through another. Maybe this will be a startup, and Claude Code did an insane amount of stuff in like an hour. I mean, warehousing. I've seen videos of like Amazon warehouse bots. Yes, so much of what people do is becoming robotified and AI-ified really quickly.
Well, you asked what I might be trying to get at. I'm fine
with it, I guess. What do you mean?
There's an interesting article written by Stephen Wolfram, and Stephen Wolfram comes from Wolfram Alpha. Wolfram Alpha, to some degree, was kind of like the ChatGPT before ChatGPT. I don't know if you ever used it. It's existed for a really long time.
It's great at like math.
Yes, that was its like first thing. It was, you could kind of ask it any math, again, way before any of the modern LLM stuff. I think
years ago.
It definitely existed when I was in college, and it may have existed like towards the end of high school. It was like a thing that like if you knew about, you could go and ask it your math questions and it would show its work. That was its other like really novel thing. Ask it a really complicated math problem. It would give you the answer and then show you the steps to do it. And so Stephen Wolfram was the guy behind Wolfram Alpha. And I believe it still exists in some form. I haven't gone there in a very long time, but he wrote this article that I guess it talks about many things, but one of the things that it posits is that all of humanity can never be automated away, that the AI can really never be what humans are because of this concept called computational irreducibility, which I honestly had to like, I went to ChatGPT.
Stir that one around a bit.
Can you give me like a much easier to understand? Like, what is this computational irreducibility idea? And what I would have called just probabilistic computing. But this idea that you can't ever actually know exactly how things are going to turn out in the real world. It's stochastic.
Sure.
It's not deterministic.
Prediction. You can only look so far in the future and only to a certain degree. The three body problem, like physics as an underlying like constraint, means that you can't predict too far in the future.
Right. So the weather, great example. We think it's going to rain tomorrow, but as we all know, we don't know it's going to rain tomorrow. And actually there's like usually a way bigger chance that it won't rain if they're saying it's going to rain, and then vice versa as well. And then we also in humanity have this idea of black swan events. These giant, they're often kind of catastrophic things that happen that no one predicted. And we sort of as a humanity accept that we couldn't have predicted it, but it still happened. And we're running around with like chickens with our heads cut off when these black swan events happen. So given
the world was going and then it changed from that one thing, like the invention of large language models.
Sure. Arguably that is a black swan event.
I would say, yeah.
And so given this degree of chaos, which also mirrors the degree of chaos that just exists in nature, I guess black swan events are nature, that AI can't ever automate away everything because the AI can't handle the black swan, the chaos.
I don't buy that a bit. These systems might be trained on everything that came before.
Yes.
But they clearly are able to adapt to new situations, even if it's mostly, usually, slightly new type events. I don't think that the world changes enough for an LLM at this point to be like, this is the state of the world, you must adapt to it, and be like, I can't. I don't even know what to do about that. No, there's going to continue to be more automation. The robots are going to continue to get better. There's going to be big news events and some big new whatever was discovered or something. But like, things are already being made that didn't exist before with this. It feels like Mr. Wolfram is describing a lack of true creativity, which I think a lot of people have described. Like, these are not creative models. They have to be given input, and that had to come from somewhere. And that's the spark of the human soul right there. Sure, I'm willing to take that kind of interpretation where, like, I've been working on a page-a-day calendar that's also a role-playing game. Just like, it was a weird idea that I had, and I don't think the AI on its own, like, of all of the things that could ever be combined together, that could happen. But me saying, like, let's make one of those was the seed that then the large language model was able to go back and forth with me on and start making something that seems kind of cool. And I'm going to follow that thread and see if it gets me somewhere. But I don't know. Like, yes, out of the infinite set of possibilities, to say a computer couldn't come up with them, I think is absolutely absurd. Just seed it with, here's 5 randomly chosen words, come up with some ideas based on that combination. It's the infinite monkeys on infinite keyboards thing, right? Like, eventually you can get anything out of infinity. Not to say that these are infinitely capable or they're infinite instantiations of them, but like, I don't know. Of course it could.
So I think to try to give like 2 examples of this, of like, how could this actually play out? So we reach AGI. So this is first presupposing that we've reached AGI, which we are also presupposing that is plausible that we could reach it, let's just say, in the next 5 years. It's 5 years from now. We've reached AGI, and AGI, one of our definitions of it in this context is that it is able to do every job that a human does. And so as part of AGI, we've also achieved EGI, meaning robots can go out and do the work.
Right. So you're not just competing in the workforce against people. You're competing against like literal actual robots applying for the jobs as well.
Right. And so there's corporations, they're all being run by robots. It's all AI, and humans in general have retired at this point. It's 5 years from now, and the vast majority of humans are retired, living off of their UBI. And I'm going to 2 scenarios. I don't think it matters which one actually happens. One scenario, a very large country ceases to exist because of some unplanned, whether it's an act of God or an act of war. This country doesn't exist starting tomorrow. I'll give you another one. Aliens invade. It could happen. There's all sorts of crazy disclosure things. Aliens have invaded, and they are now taking over parts of the world. Do we think that the AI on its own would just adapt and be able to handle the situation? Or is this a time where they're going to have to say, hey, humans, would you mind coming over here for a minute? Could we just like have a quick chat about things? Because like our whole basis of what we've built ourselves on was that these countries would still exist. They wouldn't just disappear one day. We didn't think that was really possible. And we didn't really think that aliens could invade and take over. And could you just like maybe help us out here? Linda, helping hand.
So a really interesting version of this is actually playing out right now. Large language models are trained on all of the data, legally and otherwise obtained, to a point, after which point the big pot of math is ready, and they start stirring it until the large language model is ready.
Number
soup. But that means everything that happens after that point, the large language model is not aware of. And it takes and it looks like the really biggest ones are probably coming down in terms of like how long it takes to do it. There's been all sorts of improvements in the field, blah, 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 whatever. But they're not like a week out of date. They're months at least out of date, right? The best large language models that are currently out, or at least one versional, because now we're into 2026, if you tell them a bunch of like news articles of like President Trump has just, been in charge of this deposition or deposing whatever of the leaders of Venezuela because X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
For that, like, if you give it real news events from what's actually happening in the world and tell it, like, what do we do about this? There have been multiple recorded instances of the LLM, especially on the thinking mode, being like, so it obviously has just been presented to me a fake news article. This couldn't happen. This is utterly, patently absurd. Even if Trump were to get a second term, this definitely wouldn't happen. Like, this is beyond the pale. The user's telling me to treat it like a real event, but like clearly that wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. So I'll play along. And then like, because these things are trained on so much fiction, they can handle fictional or what would otherwise seem to be fictional events just fine. Even if underlyingly, because of what it had been trained on, it's like, aliens haven't invaded. What do you mean they love Caribbean food and they're just chilling on like Antigua and Barbuda? Like, weird. But okay, I'll play with you in that fake scenario, and then it comes up with what would seem like a reasonable, plausible like thing to do, given whatever context that you just give it. They're as adaptable as people are to being given fictional events and treat them like real, or real events and treat them like real, or whatever. Like, yeah, sure. They're as adaptable as we are because they've been trained to type out messages just like we would being given information. So,
some more counterpoint to Stephen Wolfram's take that, hey, you don't really have to worry all that much about AI taking all of our jobs. Apparently, AI has been taking all of our jobs. Amazon cut over 16,000 jobs. Pinterest cut over 15%. Autodesk cut over 7%. And the hits just keep coming. We've been covering these stories for, well over a year, that these giant layoffs where the companies attribute them to AI. And our position has been not actually AI. Not actually. Is it AI yet, Daniel?
I don't think so. Like, and of course, we'll never really know the answer, but Amazon's cutting 16,000 jobs, second layoff in like 3 months, second big one in like 3 months. And they say it's to streamline operations and integrate generative AI. Oh, okay. I mean, like, they're cutting the fat. 40% profit increase year over year. Good for them. Hip, hip, hooray. We might as well cut it a little closer to the bone. We can keep going. We can keep cutting. It's still working out. Is AI really bringing like the increase in productivity that they then say have less people? And that, I think, is the crux there. If generative AI really is bringing that much of a benefit to the company, why wouldn't you also have that many people that you already had also empowered by these generative AI tools? Because if you have more people, each of which are a 10x employee because of generative AI, you want as many of those people as possible, because then you can be an even more 10x company that gets even more market share to do even more of the thing. Anyone who's saying it's because of generative AI that we're getting rid of people, but also generative AI is going to make us more efficient and able to do better, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say Gen AI is going to make us do better in the market and perform better and make more money, and also it is being used by people, so we'll get rid of a bunch of the people that would be the drivers of that 10x change for us. You can't have it both ways.
I think you can have it both ways, Daniel. So, first off,
yes, we've talked about a little bitty company making an outsized impact, and it can be single person software as a service companies that are popping up out of nowhere because one person with Claude code can make anything. Okay, but like, I don't know. If you have a whole team of like designers, you can iterate a lot faster.
So
on whatever you're designing.
On one level, I agree with you, because I don't think Amazon cut 16,000 jobs and they're replacing with AI, because I don't think Amazon as a corporation is yet ready to do that they have the skill sets to it. But from the slightly more technical side, you and I are both replacing what traditionally we would hire engineers for with AI agents. But the idea that, so you have, in this case, 16,000 engineers, and now they have these AI tools so they can get done, let's just say 10 times as much work. So you've effectively gone from 16,000 to, 10 times 160,000 engineers, right? Your 16,000 becomes 160,000 engineers, but you need work for 160,000 engineers. And I actually think that the role of the engineer is changing wildly, because what the AI sucks at, it's still, and maybe one day it won't suck at it, is the figuring out what to build next and figuring out whether what they have built is good or not, and whether it's like actually going to solve the pain points and that it's a brilliant user experience. It's not good at this. Like the
So
role,
we need AI product managers instead of AI coders
and designers.
Yeah.
And so AI product managers and AI designers are lagging right now, way behind the AI engineer.
There. Mm-hmm.
AI engineer is 100% on a senior engineering level now. Maybe a little bit better even, but they are senior engineers at this point. They are not
I've done
senior
things
product
in
managers.
hours with Claude Code or Klein or GPT, whatever. Any of these, like the top level tools, the things that I can now do in an hour are kind of approaching like, this would have been an entire quarter of work for me.
So I run 2 teams of AI engineers, and the 2 teams can do in 20 minutes, because in general, by the way, I'm using a slower model than you, but it's in 20 minutes, they do about what would have taken me a day. And every single time I can give them another task, they go away for 20 minutes. I've got 2 teams. So in 20 minutes, they effectively do 2 days. But the bottleneck is me, Daniel, because I need to figure out what are the things that we need and how do we know whether they're good.
Agreed. I find myself doing that very much. Things that would have taken me days of like investigate this weird bug, fix it, document it, deploy it, whatever, is me hitting enter 4 times now.
So that's the 16,000.
But I have to be the person who like found that there is a problem and described it, and like, okay, now we have to integrate that solution into a broader system. So the people are effectively getting in the way, I guess you could say.
Well, what I'm saying is that the average engineer is not good at that job. That is not the job of the software engineer as it has historically been.
That's way closer to the product owner, product manager, product, whatever.
But
TPM.
At least today, in order to do this well, and maybe I'm biased in this, you got to be really technical, because those AI agents, they mess up all the time still. And it's like, I have to, like, it goes really, really well. And I'm by the way, and this is the same thing as a real human. So every 20 minutes, I'm accomplishing a day's worth of work until I'm not. And there's some weird issue, and I'm getting errors that are coming out of weird places, and everything is failing and falling over. And it is this giant system. And now all of a sudden the real hunter has to go in, and I'll work with the AI agents. I'm having 4 conversations with 4 different agents all at the same time, and we're diagnosing it. We will figure it out. But the product manager,
drop everything. Start looking over there. I'll be over in this corner.
Yes, absolutely. It is. So in the real world, we used to all get on a phone call, and there'd be 15 engineers on the phone call going to 3 o'clock in the morning, all checking out different systems, running down different ideas. That scenario still happens with the AI agents, and the product manager is at this point completely incapable of navigating that.
Right.
So,
they should not be on those calls, generally speaking.
No, and by the way, mirrors the real life. You were always upset as an engineer when you were on those calls, and then all of a sudden the VP joins and can I get an update, please? Can you please explain that to me in terms that I would understand, because they've got to report up to the CEO, etc. So, but my point, going back to like the average engineer, that a lot of that job's being automated. Like that's why it is plausible to me that if Amazon was leveraging all of the generative coding and agentic coding, that they absolutely would be laying off 16,000 engineers. It's just that I don't think they are. Like in my heart, I don't think they're actually doing that.
They're not laying off 16,000 engineers. Amazon didn't say it. Pinterest didn't. I don't think they said it. Autodesk said it. They didn't say we're getting rid of a bunch of our engineers. They
It
didn't
was
say
a
we're
lot
getting
of engineers. I mean, I saw the engineers posting, I got laid off today.
Yes, some are being let off. But Autodesk, 7% of their workforce, about 1,000 employees, they said that it was going to be mostly, again, someone's going to be hit across all the orgs for any big layoff. Most of the cuts will hit sales and customer-facing teams as part of a phase in its shift to a subscription and usage-based model. But they're going to blame AI for it. No, the business is changing a little bit, and so they don't need as many like customer service reps, and they get rid of a bunch of them, and they can just blame it on AI, which is a great punching bag these days. It's just layoffs are happening because stuff happens at a company, and we're going to cut our bottom 20%, of performers, and also get rid of a lot of this, and we're restructuring that. And also, yes, some of these people are more efficient, but like I think AI is being used as the punching bag as opposed to the actual reason why most of these layoffs are happening.
I still, like, if I had to go one way or the other, I'm with you. Like, if you got to make a decision, but I just, like, I'm starting to question myself. I'm starting to think, you know what? Is AI doing this? Because in my life, AI is taking jobs.
I'm now going to take the exact opposite stance of what I just said. There's a...
Of course you are.
Hey, this is the podcast, folks. Daniel has weak opinions held weakly. I'll talk about anything. So there's this article that I am very, very excited to talk about because I firmly believe in it, despite everything I was just saying.
That's my point.
The title is No Reasons to Own. Claude comes out with a new tool. It's like Claude Desktop, or I don't even remember what it's called, but it's
Claude
the app
Work,
that you
can.
Cowork. Thank you, Claude Cowork.
I think it's
the idea
work.
being like, here's screenshots and give me just files and whatever, and I'll help you like build reports and stuff out of it.
Cowork.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is way more of like business analyst-y type work is one of the use cases that they're describing here, and the stock market as a whole went, and a bunch of stocks went down, and everyone's kind of blaming, like they're pointing at Anthropic, though OpenAI has the exact same sort of thing out there.
Yes.
But everyone points says, AI is we're all really screwed. And I think they might be right. They being the people upset about like AI making a lot of this go away, because, and this No Reasons to Own is like it's so wildly on the mark. Hunter, you and I have worked together before for a like software as a service, B2B sort of whatever company, middleware. It was in the logistics-ish space of like, hey, what's going on in my supply chain?
Supply chain risk management.
Supply chain. Yep. Okay. What percent of the customers of that job that we used to have used the entirety of the product offered to them?
Oh, I mean, a very small percentage, and I've worked for many different SaaS companies, enterprise SaaS companies that are the category. That's always
SaaS.
the case.
So,
though.
like the one that we work for, like any of them.
You buy Microsoft Office.
I'm not saying
what percentage of it do you use?
Well, right. I don't mean daily active users. I mean, what percentage of the people that were the customers of that company or any SaaS that you've worked at used every part?
No, again, but that's completely standard. Again, the Microsoft Office example. It's
there's
a whole
stuff
suite.
in
You
Word
probably
I've never used. Yeah.
But you probably don't need, there's probably whole applications you don't use that are part of Microsoft Office. You're like, wait, what is that program? I haven't seen OneNote?
Yeah. But like whatever, you paid for the thing and you got the whole thing. So this article really hits on what I think more people are noticing. And a lot of businesses whose whole job is we made like a tool that you could use should be extremely worried, because anybody can build that tool now. Multiple jobs that I've worked for are like, here's these 100 things and 50 different reports and all these little integrations and whatever, and all those reports and stuff. And like, well, but we were giving you the data to turn into these nice reports. I actually just did. I asked Claude to do it and it made the report for me. Why am I paying you thousands of dollars a month? And more companies are realizing a bunch of companies that they're paying, they don't need to pay them that money. They could just do it themselves, because a lot of the offerings out there are not super bespoke. They are, here's 300 features that most of our people will use at least some of, but kind of anybody can say, given what I already have, I need this one report over and over and over again. And that's now automated. And some people will still find the value of, I go to the website and they did all of the work for me and they're double checking it and whatever. Because like, you know, as you said, Claude's going to make, or OpenAI or whatever, they're all going to make mistakes. And you also still have to be the one who builds the thing through the large language model. But like, if you need just that one feature and you already have the data, you can do that. The thing that is the differentiator.
Yes.
The companies that will survive have a moat. This is a term used in the industry a bunch of like, we have our moat. It is stuff that no one else has. It's our secret sauce. Well, I think the moat is data that you have that no one else has, or integrations that are too much of a pain in the butt or otherwise unrealistic for you to be able to do. Like, for example, at a couple of jobs now, I've worked in the adjacent to the automotive industry. And like automotive dealerships and stuff like that have these absolutely insane CRMs and dealer management systems and whatever that are like old, janky. The dealers or the people who make that software do not like working with other people. It's hard to like get a foot in the door. If you wanted to do something in like that space, it's hard to, you could have all of like the data that you wanted to get the information out of, but it's not like accessible. You can't have the integrations that get you the other pieces of the puzzle. And that's one example. There's plenty of other spaces where you could say, I could make a user interface that takes in this data and makes me a nice feature. And I only need these 3 features. But like one of those features, you need a bunch of weird integrations and like agreements between 4 other companies to make. Like,
so moats still exist, but I feel like the moats are draining. And
they are, but they actually will exist.
The moat. So I think the moat is actually going to be something different. I think the moat is becoming taste and vibes. Like that is your moat. What is your aesthetic? Like, because that's becoming the differentiator. It is the ultimately the user experience that somehow it's different and it speaks to me personally. And again, that's the area that the AI still kind of sucks at. And great, they'll become great at it, but we have so many different aesthetics and they're so personal, and that's the moat. It'll start draining too. But the data moat, it still exists to some degree today, but I don't think that moat's lasting. I think that moat is draining, and in 2 years it'll be like 1/10 of what it is today.
Yeah, so I agree with you that it's going to be a lot smaller than it was, but I don't think it ever goes away, because there are companies whose access to data is something that other people cannot realistically get access to. For example, let's say that the company that we used to work for, we haven't named it. I don't know if we need to, but like, you know, it's in the supply chain risk management industry. You could make all of these little widgets. Here's a report. Here's what's going on, and RSS feed, and they'll do some like searches for terms or whatever. But like, I personally worked on machine learning models that needed a lot of data that was labeled. Granted, like human labelers and that as a problem, like, sure, that's basically gone. But I know, because I've been in this industry a long time and I've worked on this up to literally yesterday, I was working on this kind of problem. A large language model is not the right tool for every job. They're incredible and they've changed the world and they will continue to change the world, but it is a tool. It's like a hammer, and not everything is a nail. Some of the machine learning models that I made are way better, at the very least more efficient, if not literally better at the job for certain kinds of like classification problems, for example. And so if you say, I need to look at every news article from the last day to see if, to use a very specific example, did any companies get hit by ransomware attacks? If so, who was it? And so like, I made a model that did that. You probably remember this. I certainly do, because like, it's one of my canonical examples of what I did at that company. And not only is a large language model bad at this kind of thing, weirdly bad, like very good for, please make me a thing, it looks good, but it's like 80% good. And I was making something that's 90 whatever percent good. Not to pat myself on the back. The point being, like, just zero shotting, be good at classifying these news articles means that you have to have one of that for every different model. And it's orders of magnitude more expensive to run a bunch of Claude or OpenAI or Kimi or whatever, like queries for each of these different classifiers that you wanted, then making machine learning classifiers. And where do all those news articles come from? You can't just say constantly scrape Google for it because it will shut you down for that. The company that we work for had agreements with like the news aggregator companies who do whatever. And then
sure, we were paying millions and millions.
An insane amount of money. And so like any Joe Schmo out there can build what feels like anything. You can't build everything yet because a lot of the data, a lot of these moats, they may be draining, but they will still exist, are still wildly like unapproachable in terms of the average person having access to it, because the average person could build something that could ingest that fire hose of stuff, but they don't want to be paying the AWS bills for storage of all that stuff. They don't want to pay the millions of dollars a year just to read a bunch of news articles, to then send through a bunch of classifiers, to then build the reports. Anyone could build the report piece now. Fine. But like this no reasons to own thing, I started on one side, I flipped back to the other. Look at me.
Wrap it up, Daniel, wrap it up.
The point is, anyone can build anything. Not anyone could build everything. And so people are afraid. Software as a service companies are skittish, but like it's defensible. You still can have something.
I'm still not sure whether I'm supposed to be hopeful or not, Daniel. Was that a message of hope?
It wrapped around to it in the end there.
I thought it was hopeful at the end.
Yeah, well, it is. It's hopeful for like companies, I guess, right? Like not every software as a service is going away. Companies. You have to have that moat. You have to
companies.
Be the glue that puts a bunch of stuff together, I guess, and you still have a place.
Daniel, what if I'm hopeful about this podcast and I'm hopeful that there will be another episode? Is there like any kind of convenient way to know when more happens?
Well, yeah, I think you're setting up OpenClaw the other day, and so it's supposed to just check stuff for you, right? It'll let you know whenever there's a new episode.
There's easier ways out there. Just like you were saying, large language models,
easiest way. You
not
told me
the solution
proactive.
for everything.
It's proactive, Hunter.
Just hit your subscribe button, people. Like and subscribe. Because
there's still for humans in the world. It's
twice a week.
Hitting
twice
subscribe.
a week. All the networks, the YouTubes, the Spotifys, the Apple Podcasts, all those weird little niche podcast directories, we are there. And if we're not, you can complain directly to our AI Chief Marketing Officer, and maybe we'll even fire him live on the air. Right? On the next episode of...
They might be self-aware.